Well, hello and welcome. My name is Mark Aylward, and I'm here as I have been now about 8 or 9 episodes in a row, Jeff, with my good friend, colleague, and co-host Jeff Otis. And Jeff and I, contextually, Jeff and I have about 30 plus years each in the leadership space, and we decided a couple months ago. We've known each other for a few years now. A couple months ago, we thought this leadership content might be helpful to other people that might be aspiring to be leaders someday, or even in leadership roles and just aspiring to be better and more effective leaders. So we figured we'd, make it topical and drop 10 and 15-minute episodes in. And hopefully the people that are listening can take away one or two maybe executable action to kind of vault them into a position of greater leadership or more effective leadership. And so this is, I think, we're almost at 10, Jeff, and this one's about appreciation. And I think that if you look at the statistics around what's the most important thing to an employee or how to retain employees, in my experience, appreciation's right up there, like one, two, three, for sure, top five. And we were talking in the pregame about appreciation in the form of celebration for a couple reasons. One is an experience I've had recently with a client of mine, but as well, it's a few days from Christmas. So there's office parties going on all over the place where I'm sure some of those leaders are losing employees and some of them are keeping them. But Jeff, come on into the conversation. What do you think about this topic? What's your experience been with appreciation and then that related topic of celebration?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good topic. I think, as a leader, sometimes you're sitting at the top, sometimes it can feel lonely, right? And, you get to these times of the year and you're still thinking about closing out the year. You're thinking about all the logistics of the business and, your business plans for the following year. And sometimes, we miss the mark to adequately appreciate. And, when we look around as humans, we all have this innate need to be appreciated, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And I think when you have these celebrations like a holiday party or a New Year's party, these are opportunities for, as a leader, to sort of step up and communicate to those around you that they are seen and heard. And sometimes that's just about how you go about showing that appreciation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think back on my own career as a leader and the parties we had, whether it was the celebration of a good month, holiday, year end, or anything else that you could think of that might make sense. Maybe you were associated with a charity or raising money for a local charity or doing something for your community. When I was young, and you and I were both talking about this, I didn't appreciate this at all because I was the guy going to the party. I didn't, I wasn't leading the party. It wasn't my idea. I was looking for some free booze and maybe some good conversation and
Yeah.
some stories to tell later if I could remember them. But when you become a leader, you start to understand, even though you and I both said, Jeff, I'm not that guy. I'm not that party throwing guy. It becomes evident pretty clear. People love this stuff. And even the people that say they don't, they still like it. They just aren't as vocal about it as other people. And the other thing that struck me, I'd be interested in your feedback on this, is when you get on the golf course or the bowling alley or the restaurant or the bar, depending on the venue, and you have the opportunity to speak to individual employees completely outside of the professional venue, that's when I really got to know my people. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what your experience with that was, but I have some very fond memories of some really good conversations.
Oh, for sure. I mean, these are the opportunities often where, you get to know them better as a person. You talk about things other than the day-to-day work. And, a lot of these celebrations is an opportunity to meet their spouse or meet their partner and, get a greater understanding of who they are holistically, right? And I think those are invaluable opportunities to develop those relationships that, continue into the following year or until the next event comes up. But yeah, I find them very valuable. I remember early in my career, Mark, and you probably felt the same way, is some of those celebrations became mundane over time. Like the first couple of years, they were exciting and interesting, and then it's like, oh, we got to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one of the greatest attributes that I learned from a few leaders was how important it was to just bring creativity to the event and create
Mm-hmm.
also alignment, just aligning the event with the core importances of the people on your team,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the more you could move in that direction and keep things sort of sometimes unexpected or interesting or creative,
Mm-hmm.
but also align the event with maybe a value that the team feels passionate about, which could be serving serving a nonprofit or raising funds or doing something like that. Those to me were the events that really stood out.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's important to your point that the employees know that you didn't just do this because you felt obligated to do it, that you put some energy in it, you put some enthusiasm into it, and to your point, creativity. But it also reminds me that it's also important, or it was for me at least, to leverage the skills of the people that you had in that group of employees because everyone brings a different skill. Like I always had at least one person, and not to be, chauvinistic, but it was usually a woman that was a party planner. And she wanted control. She wanted to be in charge of everything. I'm like, have at it. Good
Yep.
God bless you. Here are my constraints. Here's my budget. Bounce stuff off me, but oh my gosh. And yeah, quite frankly, my eldest daughter has that personality. She's a party planner. If I said we're going to celebrate something, she'd say, tell me the theme and I'll take care of everything. And then
Yep.
there's other people that are like, just tell me what time it is and where it is. That's all I want to know, and I always found that interesting. But you need at least a couple people to buy in to help you because if you end up trying to do this on your own, I'm certainly not equipped to do all that work.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that's why they call it party planning or celebration or, planning is like it's no different than building any other team in your organization, right? Like it's bringing those unique strengths together that can complement one another. And I remember over the years sort of growing in and actually looking forward to some of those creativity sessions. And
Hmm.
I'd bring a little bit. And I mean, one of my favorites that stands out is when we took the team, the larger organization, to Vegas for a weekend. And you think about Vegas as partying and having fun, but we split the teams into three teams and we gave each team $500 and we said, go out, buy costumes and meet us back at the pool. You got 1 hour, right? Like, and this is just, and we're like, what? And so our team went to the McDonald's that was part of in the casino and said, hey, can you put us all in uniforms and give us some like food, to take back out to the pool? And yeah, we gave all the money to the Ronald McDonald House at the time, and they decked us out in full uniforms, and then we had pool games and contests wearing all these McDonald uniforms, and it was like that was anyway. It was just a creativity outside of the box, but I mean, 30 years later, we're still talking about that story.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes me think about, and there are so many disparate. I was part of, I told you earlier, the celebration from one of my first sales jobs where if you qualified as one of the top salespeople, there was a quarterly trip, and in the summers we would go to a beach somewhere, and in the winters we'd go skiing. And it was a Friday to Sunday thing, so it was quick. Like Saturday was all day skiing or sunning, but Friday and Sunday were, beginning the celebration, and then on Sunday it was recovering, I suppose. But different locations. We remember sitting in the conference room with all the qualifiers and we voted on locations. So we kind of got to go where we wanted to go. And then all the way, I mean, I remember taking people golfing. I remember we went bowling, and throwing darts and drinking beers. I remember skeet shooting outside at a range, which was a couple
Mhm.
hours of just awesome fun. So yeah, I think the creativity piece makes it or breaks it. I think that I've also heard more recently from a client of mine who doesn't celebrate very well by their own admission. Yeah, the last time we had this, there was like somebody brought a half a pizza and a couple of Cokes, and
Right.
it was terrible. So you can screw this up too. It's like, don't do this just because you feel an obligation, like you have to. And again, I think the fact that neither one of us is admittedly that party throwing celebration guy, if we know how important it is, then it should be pretty obvious to everybody. But yeah, I really like your point, Jeff, about the creativity, because I think if you do the same thing every year, it completely loses the point of the whole thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I always think about it as if you're doing a party or a celebration or some act of appreciation to check off a box, like, oh, it's the holiday season, we got to do this. It's never going to come across as well
Hmm.
unless you're putting some heart, thought, and energy behind it, and this creativity. I mean, I remember another organization I worked for these leaders, and we had like a winner circle every 6 months. We'd take top producers somewhere, and you'd show up for the day that you were going to fly to this location, and you still didn't know where you're going to go. You weren't handed your plane tickets until you got to the airport, and they would tell you, well, bring some warm clothes, bring some cold clothes, so your packing was all over the place. But that was one of the areas where I learned how important that creativity and then showing that you appreciate the value of people really sparked for me.
Oh yeah, that creates a whole different level of excitement.
Yeah,
I suppose as we kind of move towards wrapping up, I think the other thing that I would caution people about, and from experience, is you can do this the wrong way too. I mean, I've seen alcohol ruin a celebration. I'm sure you have too.
yeah,
I've seen people who never get out getting out, and they should have stayed in.
yeah,
So you kind of have to watch the expectation setting. You kind of have to be conscious of liability. You kind of have, unfortunately, way back in the day, the ones I was describing to you, Jeff, those are illegal now. I
yeah,
mean, you can't. It's not like distasteful. It's illegal. But it's like I think you have to be conscious of the fact that this can backfire on you if you don't do your homework, or if you just, like we said earlier, you're just doing it to check a box. So
yeah,
just be conscious of that, I would say. But more than anything, if I was to leave anybody interested in leadership with a message, people love to be appreciated, and celebration is part of appreciation. So if you're dismissing that, or you're not sure about that, I would invite you to investigate, talk to some other leaders, talk to some other people, compare notes, because I think this is something that's too often overlooked.
yeah. I totally agree. I think the other aspect to it is, look, you're not always in a position to throw a big party. Sometimes budgets restrict you from doing it. And what I would the another takeaway as far as for the individuals listening to this is, if that's the case, you can still take a few minutes and go sit with each employee over the holidays, get to learn them a little bit more, remind them how much they're appreciated, remind them, celebrate the contributions that they individually have brought to the table and have helped the organization with.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
takes
Yeah.
little effort other than some time and recognizing how important it is for you and your team.
Yeah, I think be authentic about it, I think is what you're saying. Be whatever it is, as small or as large as it can be, make sure it's authentic. Pay
Yep,
attention.
yep.
So thanks, Jeff. That's great. I think it's a really important topic. So, and by the way, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and maybe we'll do one of these in another 2 weeks.
Sounds great. And before we go, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And just to let you know, I appreciate you.
Me too, brother. Me
All
too.
right.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Jeff.
soon.
See
Bye.
you. I like that.